Welcome to Films and Stuff with your hosts, Pete Mitchell and Ethan Hunt.
Pete, Films and Stuff, we are back. New day, new episode. What should we talk about today?
So
I know, I just want to hear you say.
Perfect, Ethan. So I think, we've been talking about it for a while, not just on the show, but off the show. I think there've been a lot of changes and there've been a lot of shifts and, some seismic, some not so seismic in the streaming platform, let's call it industry, let's say the landscape. A lot of things have changed, I think, especially in the last month with the completion of the spin-off/merger of Warner Discovery now. So AT&T has kind of spun off HBO and their entertainment division, merged it with Discovery to create Warner Discovery. It's this massive conglomerate, and I'm sure many people have heard about the news as to what's going on with HBO Max. Movies left, right, and center are being shelved for tax write-off purposes. So maybe it's a good idea to kind of just get a state of the union for what's going on with the streaming platforms around.
I mean, there are a surprisingly... I think of only kind of like 6 platforms, but really there's a load and load of platforms. And I think what we're seeing right now is the shakeout of consolidation, right? Because and I, who watch maybe not the most television in the world, probably in the top
1%.
5.
I would say top 1%.
Unless you're really working for Variety or one of the entertainment trade magazines, you and I probably watch almost just as much as a lot of the others do, right?
Absolutely.
I think of kind of the big 6, right? Netflix, Amazon, Disney, Apple, HBO, Hulu. Yeah. And then you get, and that's just kind of the tip of the iceberg with everything else, right? If you want to go into the networks, right? There's Paramount Plus, there's Peacock, there's Discovery, there's Showtime. Surprisingly, there's nothing really big from Sony or Sky. And this is just kind of like the US based ones, right? When you go to Asia or Europe, there's Latin America, there's loads and loads more.
Yeah. Some of them are owned by the big 6. So, for example, Disney has Disney Plus, but in India, it's Disney Hotstar, and you'll be surprised, or maybe not so surprised. Disney Plus, for example, has around 80 million subscribers. Disney Plus on its own. Disney Hotstar has another 50 million, and that's primarily just South Asia, and maybe even more specifically, just India. So
I like the name Hotstar.
Yeah, so India on its own, I think it was an acquisition. I think they had their own platform, and I think Disney purchased them. I think, and that's just one country. So, for example, and that just goes to show you how powerful population size is. If you take India out of it, Disney loses 50 million subscribers, which is not an insignificant number.
No, not at all. So, where do you want to start here? Do you want to talk about like which streaming platform we think has the best value for money? Do we want to talk about where we see some of this consolidation moving? Let's
do that. Let's talk about and I think you raise a really good point. We're really only going to talk about the big 6 or the big 5 or the big, whatever you want to discuss, however you want to delineate that, whether that number is 50 million subscribers or 30 million subscribers or 100 million subscribers. It's really important because all these niche platforms like Crunchyroll and Quibi and all these other platforms, the entertainment industry as a whole, this is not just movies and television, right now is experiencing, when I say contraction, I don't mean by numbers or earnings. I mean contraction in terms of a consolidation phase. So you've all of a sudden got, if you look at the video game industry, for example, Microsoft is in the final stages of completing its $70 billion acquisition of Activision Blizzard. Sony has just acquired Bungie, a couple of Embracer Group out of, I think, the UK, but it could be somewhere else in the EU, has acquired, I think, 7 or 8 game studios, including those from Konami, in the last month alone. And then they said specifically that they've got another 2 that they can't talk about yet because it's not public knowledge.
Oh, really?
So there's a lot of industry consolidation going on. And I think it's because, there's a lot of opportunity for cost savings and synergy. And there's also just the fact of the matter remains is, in the video games industry certainly, is these IPs are very, very valuable. And we're starting to see that the value proposition for IP in general is going through the roof. This is exactly what we're seeing with HBO and Discovery.
Yeah. One of the problems I have as a consumer is I actually want a little bit of consolidation, because there's nothing more annoying to me than when I've got to go on a different platform entirely to get content that should be available to me, right? Like Peacock, for example, I don't even know if I subscribe to Peacock. I might.
I am not subscribed to Peacock.
Peacock is Universal Pictures. It has Sci-Fi, and it has DreamWorks, and it has Focus Features, right?
Yep.
That's really annoying to me. Whereas Hulu, which is owned by NBC, which is also Comcast, right?
Yep. And Disney
has something totally different. So, I think that we need to have a little bit of consolidation. I know this is going to take time because it's not so easy that you just mash them up. There's a lot of license agreements, in place. But I'd like to see kind of that Disney consolidates everything under Disney Plus. At least if you go to Disney Plus, you've got everything. I understand they may have some other offshoots that have like little niches or carve-outs, and maybe those are less expensive or there's less choice. But I'd like to see Disney Plus with everything. I'd like to see Hulu collapsed. I just don't think that we need... I like Hulu. But again...
I think just roll it up into Disney.
I think roll it up into Disney. Right? And the same with HBO. I'd like whatever HBO is going to be, whether it's going to be...
So you raised that. I think it's a good point you've raised, and I think
Warner,
you're absolutely onto it.
Yeah.
So Discovery Plus is actually, in terms of subscribers, from what I understand, more powerful or a larger subscriber base than HBO Max.
Why is this under Discovery? Is Discovery the bigger channel? No, because I'm looking at... I don't know if this is right, but when I look at Wikipedia, I have to check when this is updated by, Discovery Plus has 24 million people, 24 million subscribers, and HBO Max has 76 million. It's dramatic, which to me makes sense because HBO to me is the bigger brand.
Yeah, but I think it comes down to, on a brand perspective, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
But I think this comes down to CEO perspective, which is to say it was the CEO of Discovery that's going to now run the show. So it becomes a little bit of a territorial pissing contest.
Their name. They like the
So
Discovery.
It's their name. So even though it's Warner Discovery, and even though 70% of the company is owned by AT&T, which was Time Warner effectively, right? I think it's David Zaslav has basically said, listen, I'm running the show now. And in terms of profitability, my understanding is that Zaslav's and, Discovery in general is a lot more profitable than HBO. Let me have reins. Let me take control of this. And I promise you I will. So he has told the board he is going to achieve $3 billion a year in savings in the next 2 years, while increasing content spend $20 billion a year. So
$20 billion $20 billion?
Yeah, you heard me. That's exactly right. They have committed to spending $20 billion a year on new content while cutting $3 billion a year in costs. And one of the easiest and fastest ways to cut costs is to merge the two platforms, which is fair enough. But what I think they're going to do is they're going to merge the platforms, but they're going to do it as, I guess, Discovery Plus or whatever, and get rid of HBO Max, which I think is a mistake. I think HBO Max has more of a cultural cachet, certainly in North America, than it does anywhere else. I would tune into HBO before I tuned into Discovery. But I also recognize that Discovery in general their shows are a lot cheaper to produce, in my opinion, is because there's a lot of nature TV, a lot of reality
Food
TV.
channel.
So the content is very, very cheap to produce, which means that it's very profitable. Whereas we know, I mean, we've seen it with HBO, forget HBO, we've seen it with just Warner Brothers alone. Their content is very expensive to produce, and, whatever the actual number is, but it seems like 90% of everything they've put out on screen has been like a stinker critically. Whether it makes money or not, it's almost irrelevant. It's not getting the cultural cachet that they should be getting when you have a Batman, a Superman, a Wonder Woman on screen. They're not getting it. They're not extracting the maximum value.
I mean, it's true when you look at HBO, let's just call it DC, right? HBO. There's not a lot of DC on it. It's Game of Thrones, Euphoria, Flight Attendant, Succession, Billions, Westworld. That's kind of it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's no superhero in that entire range. Right? There's no Batman spin-off show. There's a lot of Superman spin-off shows, I feel like. These are all DC properties, right?
CW, yeah, that's right. That's exactly right. I'm very intrigued to see what they do in terms of content. I agree with you that consolidation as a consumer is probably a good idea, because ultimately what's happening is, everyone said the advantage of streaming services is that you can basically pick and choose one platform and get all the content you want. And you no longer need to be subscribed to, like the old school cable television model where you have to pay $300 a month to get 800 channels or whatever it was. That's fine. And that worked well when it was just Netflix. That was great. But now that it's Netflix and 10 other streaming platforms, or at least now 5 other streaming platforms, and you're paying $15 a month for Netflix, you're paying $25 a month or $20 a month for HBO Max, you're paying another, let's say $15 or $10 for Hulu, you're paying $12 for Apple, you're ultimately coming close to $100 a month or $120 a month. You're going back to that cable model. It's a step backwards.
I mean, do you remember when we watched Halo on Paramount Plus? I mean, I watched Halo on Paramount Plus. I watched Yellowstone on Paramount Plus. And I think there's one other thing I watched on Paramount Plus.
Remember, it wasn't even Yellowstone. Yellowstone was produced by Paramount, but not actually shown on Paramount Plus. It was shown on Hulu.
Yes, you're right. No, and I also watched The Mayor of Kingstown.
Yeah, that was very recent.
Because of that, since I got a 1-month subscription, which I canceled after Mayor of Kingstown, that's where I watched Players, which if you've listened to me on Streamer Skip, I said absolute skip. So Paramount for me is a total fail, apart from Halo, which we didn't even really like Halo that much. That takes us way back into the past, right? When we had our...
Yeah, tell me about it. So, yeah, it's again, for consumers, consolidation, at least at this moment, is probably a good idea, because it's not enough platforms to qualify, or when they shrink down, it's still enough content or platforms that you have viable competition between them. So prices aren't going to skyrocket. And it's not, it's not a situation where all of a sudden you're down to like an oligopoly or even a monopoly. So that's good. But for I think for content producers, this becomes a problem, right? It's the same problem that Disney had, or that people had when Disney merged with Fox or acquired Fox, which is to say, hey, I wrote this movie. I previously had 6 studios I could sell it to. I'm down to now 5. Eventually it'll become 4. So my marketplace is shrinking. So it becomes, I think, an issue for content creators, not so much for content consumers. Yeah. So it's a little bit of a balancing act at the moment. But I'm also cognizant of the fact that, listen, at the end of the day, entertainment is, and certainly streaming platforms, it's a luxury spend. It's not a utility. It's not internet. It's not water. It's not electricity. So if the content isn't good enough, I have no qualms about canceling my subscription.
I mean, I found that this is the research I have. I mean, I use my family's account for Netflix.
Yeah.
I have an Amazon Prime Video account, which I think is very inexpensive.
No, well, it's free with Amazon Prime.
Yes.
If you have Amazon Prime, you have Amazon Prime Video for free.
Yes. Disney, I rarely use. My brother has Disney. I think I rarely use Disney.
Okay.
And Apple is $4.99 a month. My Apple account is very inexpensive. And I probably get good value on Apple, right? I'm watching Pachinko on there right now. We watch Blackbird on there right now. We watched For All Mankind. So I thought Apple gave me good value, although they don't have the same amount of variety. I find HBO is not giving me a lot of value. Apart from Game of Thrones, what else are we watching?
So maybe this is a sneak preview for 3 months from now.
Yeah.
But at the moment, when you look at all of our streaming platforms that we're talking Amazon Prime, AMC Plus, Apple TV Plus, Disney Plus, I don't know what all the pluses are for, HBO Max, Hulu, Netflix, Paramount Plus, Showtime, and then I said others. These are things like Peacock, etc. Yeah. So those are the main ones that I've listed, and they're not the big 5. They're a little bit more, but these are shows that we've seen on all these platforms.
This is a great spreadsheet.
If you look at them, right now, the most critically successful platform is HBO Max.
You're right.
And that's because of Tokyo Vice and Winning Time, both which were must subscribes.
Yep.
And Peacemaker almost made it a must subscribe.
Yep.
But that's only 3 shows.
3 shows.
It's really difficult, right? Because HBO, right, is, I think it's $15 a month, and they just introduced an ad-supported tier at $10 a month.
Yeah.
Whereas if you look at something like Netflix, combined, we've watched 15 shows. And if you look out besides that, on top of that, we've watched another 8 on that individually. So in terms of gross value, Netflix is probably giving you the most, but the quality is definitely not that high, which is something you'd expect, right? It's really hard to be high volume and high value.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that's a very good point. I mean, that's I think we always make our spreadsheets public, right? But I mean, you're right that we watch, if you're looking just by volume, we watch the most on Netflix, followed by Apple TV Plus, followed by Amazon Prime, Disney Plus, HBO, and Hulu. But I mean, Netflix is far and away the highest. I think part of that is that Netflix has movies.
I think it's more than that. I think it's a little bit that they also do movies. You're right. Most of the other platforms, very rarely do they do movies.
But I would say something. You and I, for example, when there's a new release, you and I almost always see it in the cinema.
That's right.
Right? So, for example, on Disney Plus, we don't wait. When Black Panther comes out, we're going to see it in the cinema. We're not going to see it on Disney Plus.
Exactly.
So if you're a big cinema goer, it probably changes also. Whereas Netflix, I know they do cinematic releases for some of their original films, but generally no. Where we watched Red Notice. What else do we watch?
On Netflix, we watched like The Bubble, Hustle,
Yeah, The Bubble.
Gray Men,
That thing with Adam.
The Adam Project. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, I mean,
So
generally
if you
we
look at
watch
it
more
that
movies.
way, so
Yeah.
it's interesting you say that, because if you look at it that way, and I'm pivoting now to our spreadsheet for movies, right?
Yep.
If you look at it that way, we have gone to far more cinema screenings than we have for any of them. And and interestingly enough, on average, the movies we've seen in the cinemas have done better than the movies that we've watched on streaming platforms.
So is this correct? You and I have seen 20 movies in the cinema in 2022?
Yeah, well,
we've each seen 20?
We've both watched together. I've watched more. I've watched 8 in the cinema that you haven't.
Whoa. You saw 28 movies this year?
Yeah. We've seen quite a lot.
Wow. Solo watches. Yeah, you're right. In terms of streaming platforms, what are you watching on? I mean, Netflix is far and away the biggest, right? They've got 220 million subscribers. What are you watching on Netflix? Like, what are the big shows that you want to see on Netflix? Did you watch Better Call Saul on Netflix?
Yep, for me, better. So Netflix, I think internationally has the rights for Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad. So I did not watch it on AMC Plus, even though I believe it's an AMC Plus original. So I watched Better Call Saul on Netflix. And the same applies to Ozark. I saw that on Netflix. Then, of course, my favorite Umbrella Academy was on Netflix.
Oh, yeah.
So, which, by the way, I sent you a message maybe yesterday.
Coming for season 4.
Season 4 is the final season, has been greenlit finally, and it comes out next year.
I love Umbrella Academy. You deserve 100% of the credit. And as I was telling you earlier today, I also have recently gotten deep into Stranger Things, where I watched the first 3 seasons. I'm starting season 4. No spoilers. And I have to say, that's not entirely because of you, but it's largely because of you. And I've been very, very happy and surprised that I liked Stranger Things, I have to say. Both of those, I think, are exceptional shows. Both of them are 4 seasons. I'm going to be sad to see them each end, you know?
Yep, season 4. So I think season 5 of Stranger Things, I can't remember if it was season 5, but I'm pretty sure the next season is going to be the last season of Stranger Things.
Oh, there will be one more.
Oh, yeah.
It's too big of a cash cow for them to end, right?
Too big of a cash cow, but at the same time, they're also spending $30 million an episode. It is the most...
$30 million?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
It's shockingly expensive. And I think this is why I think and I'm glad, you've alluded to this point, but this is why I think a lot of the streaming platforms want to consolidate as well, or at least content, because you cannot spend $300 million on a 10-episode season. It's too much money. It's just too much money for something that I don't think you're eventually going to get the payback on. You might see that if you spent $300 million on a movie in the cinema, you would need to make $600 million so that you could split 50% with the distributors, right? With the theaters. Plus, you'd need to earn at least another $200 million on top of that for marketing. So that's $800 million. And that's just to break even. It's unbelievable.
How much do you think it costs to make Inventing Anna on Netflix?
Next to nothing. I imagine it costs next to nothing.
Really?
Yeah. You have one scene which was like one production set which was like a prison, right? The visiting cells in the prison.
Yeah.
Or not cells, but the visiting room in the prison. You had what appeared to be a journalist's office, and you had a lobby of a hotel.
You've got the yacht, you've got some restaurants and stuff.
Oh, That's right. You did. You're right. You're absolutely right. But all those things could have been done on location, not in Europe, on location like in Long Island.
Yeah.
So I don't think it would be very difficult to make a yachting sequence off of the east coast of the US look too dissimilar from Greece.
If I'm looking at Netflix, All right, so they've got another season of Stranger Things coming out. And then what's their other kind of like...
Sandman, by the way.
Sandman.
Neil Gaiman himself, the author, said that season 2 is in trouble because it just was such an expensive show to make. They may not make their money back. Again, I didn't understand that, but okay, fair enough.
What about Umbrella? So basically it's Stranger Things, Umbrella Academy. Sandman is kind of iffy. And then there's really not a lot of recurring stuff on Netflix. Am I right about this?
Yeah, Ozark finished. Better Call Saul finished. You've got Lincoln Lawyer. They're making the second season of Lincoln Lawyer, but that's just a legal drama. That shouldn't cost them anything.
I have to say, I've heard from my sister, Lincoln Lawyer is actually quite great ending.
Did you not finish it?
No, I did not.
Oh, I loved it.
Okay, so I heard it from you and from her. Okay.
Yeah.
But I have to say, like, Netflix has, and this is one of the issues that we've had, right? We do watch a lot of stuff on Netflix. I watched Inventing Anna. That's a great one-off. There are like some very good Hustle, for example, Spiderhead, for example, The Gray Man, for example, right? Like, there's a lot of one-off things we watch on Netflix.
No, and the same goes for these like movies that you don't really think about, like. You haven't seen it. I saw it. I thought it wasn't good, but I didn't think it was bad by any means. But, they have like these deals. Like Kevin Hart has made a bunch of these movies. Like The Man from Toronto.
The Man from Toronto.
Me Time just released. I haven't seen it yet, but that's on my watch list. I'll probably see it this weekend. It's, again, a Kevin Hart and Mark Wahlberg comedy.
Oof.
So, like Kevin Hart has kind of built this niche of making these movies where even though he's maybe not an A-list star himself, he ties up with other comedic or maybe not so comedic stars to make these comedies that could be sleeper hits.
How is it possible, though, that Netflix has so many like duds, like Day Shift? Is it possible at all that this Day Shift with Jamie Foxx, Snoop Dogg, and Dave Franco's brother... Poor guy.
No, it is Dave Franco, not James Franco.
Oh, yeah. James Franco's brother, Dave. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there any likelihood that this is terrible, right?
It is, but I think I think this is in response to Netflix. I think this is Netflix's response to saying, oh, crap. HBO Max has got a reasonably good streaming platform. Apple TV's got a reasonably good streaming platform. All right, let's quickly go out to all of Hollywood. Let's literally throw money at everyone we can, and let's see who can come up with a story or a TV series that sounds even reasonably acceptable. That's not $100 billion to make. Let's get them to do it, right? Like these Kevin Hart movies. They're not costing you a ton of money. They're not effects heavy at all. They're all comedies. They're quick and easy money. I'm not saying they're $10 million movies, but they're certainly not $100 million movies.
Yeah. I have to say, I mean, as much as I love Stranger Things, as much as I love Umbrella Academy, I've got to keep that Netflix, subscription. I flip through there, and I have to say nothing is really catching my attention apart from those two.
Yeah, I think that Netflix, the one advantage Netflix has over everybody else is their international presence. Because they were first, true. Because they had, until recently, the most number of subscribers on the platform, Netflix was also the first to say, okay, I'm going to Bollywood, Tollywood, and the 3 other Indian movie-making industries. I'm going to throw some money. I'm going to get a bunch of Indian content on my platform. I'm going to go to the Korean version of their movie industry. I'm going to go to the Japanese movie industry. I'm going to go to the South, to the Thai and the Indonesian and to all these other countries. They basically said, we've got 200 million people on our platform. We're a truly global platform. I'm going to throw money, and if a movie costs me $50 million to make in North America, I bet you it's only going to cost me $10 million or $5 million to make in India or in the Philippines or in China or wherever it is. Make these movies for your viewers. And I don't think, for example, Disney has that cultural cachet. If you look at Disney, Disney's movies are all things that we grew up with, but are all North American focused. Disney isn't making movies in China, is not making movies in Korea.
If I look at the most streamed on Disney Plus, Mandalorian Season 2, Mandalorian Season 1, WandaVision, Falcon Winter Soldier, Loki, Hawkeye, Boba Fett. Boba Fett's low.
None of them are original platforms. They're all based on existing IP.
It's either Star Wars or Avengers, right?
Exactly. Again, not a bad thing. I'm not criticizing them for that, but there's no, let's say, original non-IP content being produced by Disney at the moment. Everything they're doing serves existing intellectual property.
Yeah.
Whereas every other platform is saying, hey, we have to come up with brand new IP. And so they've got a shotgun approach, which is to say, okay, let's just throw money all around. Let's see what sticks.
I think what Netflix does very well is like Inventing Anna. I think that's a very, very good, like that's their wheelhouse, you know? It's got one kind of semi-famous name. It's got a good story. They did it very well. I think that's a very, very good place for them to be.
Right.
I watched Downfall Case Against Boeing. I mean, that's good, but that's not going to capture like a wide audience, you know. I'm sure that wasn't very expensive to make. It's a documentary. There's, just interviews and they show documents and stuff. That's not really where their bread and butter is. I thought that, Inventing Anna was very good. Prime, by the way, can we talk about Amazon Prime for a minute?
Oh, we should. Yes.
Where are they? I'm super
Can
confused.
I tell you, I watched Sylvester Stallone's latest movie, Samaritan, on Prime, and the movie was so bad, I considered unsubscribing from Amazon Prime. That's how bad it was. And you know me, and listeners, all of you know me, I am very hesitant to A, slate a movie, and B, more importantly, I never go after actors. I never say, oh, this actor was good, this actor was bad. This movie was filled with bad acting. Like, really horrendous acting. And I'm not saying it to be mean. I'm shocked that this movie was made. And I'm shocked that it made it past whoever was in charge of making the distribution rights.
I mean, I'm very confused by Amazon Prime because they've got some things that we've really liked. We love The Boys, right?
Yep.
Night Sky, right?
Yep.
We loved it, even though that's not renewed. Correct?
Well, even though that got canceled, yeah, which is a shame.
I have to say, I'm kind of into Carnival Row.
Okay.
We didn't like Rag and Bone. We didn't watch, what else is on our streamer skip list that we didn't watch yet? League of Their Own, we didn't watch yet. Yeah, we don't even have that many things from Amazon Prime.
Not that
on our
much.
list.
Amazon Prime is the terminal list. You Are Wanted. Again, I don't know anything about them. Outer Range, which was not bad.
Oh, yeah. Outer Range was very good. Night Sky was very good. Carnival Row was very good. They're not actually, when they put together a show, Wheel of Time was okay. The Boys was very, very good. Those are not bad shows. I didn't really love Reacher. What did you think of Reacher?
I loved it.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It was a must subscribe for me.
Oh, wow. Because that was their number one show.
On Amazon Prime? No, I preferred The Boys, but yes.
No, but I mean, that's the one, apparently, that has the most minutes watched has been Reacher.
Yeah, but I hesitate to listen to those kinds of statistics because it's also 10 episodes of 60 minutes each. So that skews the numbers.
Yeah. But Reacher is not a original intellectual property, right? It's based on a book, and
it's based on a book. That's right.
It's based on a Tom Cruise movie. So it's got like a few advantages over Wheel of Time, The Boys, Night Sky. But I have to say, I mean, when I look at these, like Disney for me has the clearest strategy. Like, hey, we're just spinoffs for Avengers and spinoffs of Star Wars. Pretty clear,
basically,
right?
The current shows that we've watched on Disney Plus and that we're going to watch and that we've heard about are there basically as fillers for the movies.
Yeah, I have to say, I the few things I watch on Amazon Prime I like, but I don't find that they've got a whole lot after that roster. Netflix has a deeper roster, but I'm just not getting a whole lot after Stranger Things or after One Umbrella. Like, once I'm done with Stranger Things season 4, I don't have anything on Netflix that I want to watch. I don't have anything I want to watch.
I will say, if you look at our streamer skip, for example,
we're pretty evenly distributed between Netflix and HBO.
Yeah, but
Apple TV very
out
low.
Of the 65 shows on our total streamer skip lists,
vast majority
25 of them are Netflix. That which says everything you need to know about Netflix, which is to say, hey, if you don't have a specific show you're looking for, you have a better chance of finding a rare gem in Netflix than you do in any of the other platforms, just by sheer volume. And I think that's where they're going, which is to say, maybe Apple TV is producing more must-subscribes, maybe HBO Max is, but are you willing to spend $80 a year or $100 a year in the hopes that you find 5 shows that you like out of the 10 that they make? Or do you want to spend the same amount of money and hope that you find the same 5 shows you like out of 500?
All right. So, Pete, you are correct with the following qualification.
Okay.
It makes more sense, yes, to subscribe to Netflix and have that roster if you listen to Films and Stuff or someone else and have someone guide you on what's good.
Yes,
because
that's
if you're,
true.
I mean, let's face it. If you and I are different. We're entrepreneurs. We've got more flexible schedules. We watch a bunch of stuff. And if it's bad, then we talk about it. Ha ha ha. If you've really worked all week long, you come home, you're Friday night, you order a pizza. You're like, oh, what a week. I just want to watch something. Man, there is nothing more annoying than wasting an hour on a Friday watching the first episode of something that's bad. And you're like, hey, wait a second. All right, I just finished Stranger Things. What should I watch? Sense8, Jupiter's Legacy, Flaked, Better Than Us, Night Flyers, King of Stonks. You watch first 30 minutes. Oh, that's bad. You watch another 30 minutes of something else. Oh, that's not so great. I watched 30 minutes of something else. Okay, this is pretty good. Wait a second. It's 11 o'clock. I've got to go to bed because I've got to get up early tomorrow. You're like, this was my Friday, the one night of the week that I've got. I just wanted some me time. And I wasted 2 hours of my precious time just trying to find something that's good. Whereas I feel like, I mean, I don't want to say like people are sheep. That's not nice. We are people as well. But sometimes it's easier to just be like, hey, go to HBO, watch House of the Dragon. You'll be happy. Order your pizza, enjoy life. It's nice to know that the thing that you're going to watch is going to be good. So yes, I agree. Netflix has a deep roster and we can find some hidden gems. But for me and you, we enjoy trying to find the hidden gem. That's part of like our...
That's true. You're absolutely
That's a fabric of our personality. We like watching some crappy stuff and saying, hey, that's really crappy. Don't watch it. And finding a hidden gem. If I'm not doing this for a living... and we're not really doing this for a living, but if I'm not watching TV as like my thing, I'm watching it to escape or for like entertainment, I'm not really looking to try to find the thing. It's not like going to a grocery store and it shouldn't be a treasure hunt like, hey, where's the milk, right? This will be so much fun to try to find the milk. The milk's in the same place because it's supposed to be easy for you so you can buy it. And I feel like Netflix is going to be doing people a disservice if it's going to have so much clutter that people are not able to find something right away.
Yeah, I actually, you know what? That is probably, you're right. The bottom line is you're absolutely right, because we have to think about that exact scenario. You and I are special cases. We're not the 99% in this regard.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's one of the reasons we started Streamer Skip, which is it's important to get someone to tell you like whether or not it's even worth your time. Like for me, someone told you to watch Players. I watched Players because I thought it looked good, right? Like, oh, this will be a funny show about, an esports team. And it's terrible. Like I wasted 2 half-hour episodes on it. Fine, it's an hour, we can talk about it and have a laugh and blah, blah, blah. But if I only had like 2 hours of free time between when I put my kid to bed and the time that I went to bed, I'd be like super annoyed that I was paying.
Yep.
That's, I think, where Netflix needs to cull a little bit of stuff. And maybe one of the reasons against the consolidation is that if you go to Paramount, this is what's at Paramount. If you go to Hulu, this is what's at Hulu. If you go to HBO Max, this is what's at HBO Max, right? And that's like, when you go to Discovery, you're going to get food channel stuff. You're going to get
reality TV
stuff, right?
Yeah. Have you perhaps inadvertently made this a 45-minute long advertisement for why we should be all listening to Films and Stuff, the podcast?
I have. And who's to say it's been inadvertent?
I see. You're playing chess while I'm playing checkers.
But it's absolutely true, right? I mean, it's really frustrating for you and me as well. We've tried a lot of stuff and we haven't liked it, and some of it is easy to know that we're going to like, and it's why Stranger Things gets renewed for 5 seasons, right? And I'm sure that you said it's $30 million a season or $30 million an episode. Part of the reason is that everyone is getting paid a lot more because they can demand a lot more because it's a known IP on Netflix, whereas Bridgerton, Lucifer, Witcher, some of those others aren't as popular, right? I've heard good things about Bridgerton, to be honest. Every list you watch,
it always features on some of the best things. Now, again, what are they called? Like these era-specific shows. Period pieces, that's right. They're not really my bag, but consistently I have heard that Bridgerton is excellent. So I think I may eventually have to end up dipping my toe in it. In fact, I should.
Do you think we should have a Bridgerton? Do you think next week we should do like a Bridgerton review?
It might be worth it. Or at least just to get an idea of what it's like, right?
All right. So listeners, you've heard it here. Pete and Ethan, we're going to commit to watching 2 episodes of Bridgerton. Period piece. Let's see if we end up in tears or what the emotions are after this.
Yeah, that might be interesting.
I think that's fair.
It'll be a unique streamer skip in the sense that we're both going to be watching it.
Are you surprised that Sony doesn't have a more popular channel or a more popular platform?
I'm not. Sony has no money. They're floundering. I'm absolutely not. Their entertainment company. The only aspect of Sony that's doing really well right now is the PlayStation, and even that they just don't have the money. Microsoft could buy them out 10 times over.
How can you say Sony doesn't have money? What does that mean?
Their market cap is lower than everybody else's. They've had a string of flops in terms of movies, or at least financial flops. They're just not that profitable.
It's very surprising. Do you agree? Like I'm looking at this list. Sony owns Crunchyroll, which is primarily
an anime platform. Yep.
And they own something called Sony Live, which is spelled LIV, which makes me think of the Saudi Gulf League.
Oh, yeah, God.
And that's only Sony TV, a bunch of weird stuff I don't recognize. It says only Indo-Pacific and Middle East.
Okay.
But doesn't Sony have like a lot of IP?
It's got a lot of video game IP. It's got a ton of video game IP because Sony basically started the trend of we're going to buy or develop our own games producers for exclusives. That's been their business model for decades.
Do you think we should put on like video game streaming sites on our list as well? I mean, that's eventually going to compete, right? Like Twitch.
We could, but I mean, like if you look at it that way, the movie industry has got a lot to do to catch up to the video game industry. The video game industry is far more lucrative than the movie industry is by a factor of 10, if I remember correctly. Don't quote me on the number, but I remember in 2019 or maybe 20, it was something like the video game industry was worth something like $300 billion or something like that for the year. And the movies, and this is pre-pandemic, so it wasn't a hit by that. It was like worth only $30 billion or maybe even less. I can't remember, but it was some ridiculous factor. Right? I mean, there's a reason why. That's the reason why Microsoft has paid $70 billion to acquire two studios. It's unheard of.
I mean, the one statement that always made me look at things differently was that hour per hour or hour by hour, video games offer better value for money, which is saying a movie. How much is a cinema just basic seat in London? £10?
Anywhere from 10 to 25 pounds.
So let's say 15 pounds, right?
Yeah. Okay.
So 15 pounds for 2 hours of entertainment, right? 7.5 pounds an hour of entertainment, right?
Yep.
Whereas if you look at how much a video game costs per hour of entertainment,
$70 and your average video game is like lower. 30 hours. Yeah.
Right? Dramatically lower.
Yeah.
I mean, what video game are you playing? What game did you play today? You don't have to answer that question. I'm prying.
No, but I mean, I haven't played anything today, but in general, there's a couple of games that I've just started on games from Games Pass. Right. Death Stranding, which is hilarious that it came out on Xbox Game Pass because that is a Sony-owned IP. Huh. And what else?
And did you have to pay for it, or it's on Game Pass?
No, because I'm a subscriber to Games Pass, so it's free for me.
So even better. I mean, how much do you pay for Game Pass? Like £7 a month?
Let's say £10 a month. It's a little bit more because I have the Ultimate version, but yes, it's £10 a month.
And how many hours have you played this game?
I literally just started, but it's a 40-plus hour game.
That by itself, right? I mean, gaming is a much better value per hour than cinema, and that's why streaming took off, because it's supposed to give you better value per hour, right?
Yep.
But I'd like to see. I feel like Sony is missing out on not having their own platform. I mean, even when you look at all these other platforms, Netflix started. I just don't know
how much they own, how much video or TV IP they actually own.
Really? I thought they have so many movies.
Movies, maybe, but I don't know. Like Spider-Man, almost all of the Spider-Man universe now is back in MCU's hand, at least creatively and financially, 50%.
If Sony created a platform, would they be able to show the Spider-Man movies on that platform? We don't really know the other thing.
That's the other thing. I don't know what their licensing rules are like now.
Yeah.
It's gotten so complicated. At that point, I imagine Disney would just be like, okay, here's $10 billion. We're buying the rights to Spider-Man back. Thank you very much. Whatever the number is. I'm being specious when I say $10 billion, but frankly speaking, it's worth it.
You're the president of Sony. Do you sell it?
No, because it's the one last profitable thing I have in my portfolio.
I mean, create something new.
Yeah, but I mean, with all due respect, Amy Pascal's been the head of that studio for years. She's done nothing.
I mean, why can't they create something new? They own other intellectual property. It's just not like...
I don't know why they don't go and say, okay, well, they're starting to, right? Like they're making the Last of Us movie or TV show with Pedro Pascal. Yeah. So I don't know why they don't go and say, okay, listen, we've got Ratchet and Clank. We've got a bunch of these other Sony exclusive titles from the video games. Why don't we make a series based off of that? Let's build a new universe around that.
Yeah.
I don't know. These are expensive propositions, and for a company that really doesn't have that much money, it's also a very risky proposition. And I think that's where the problem comes in. Whereas Microsoft, who has literally hundreds of billions of dollars in their war chest ready to be deployed, could go to Paramount and say, here's $100 million, make Halo. And if it's really bad, we're going to go to, and this is what they did, they went to Alex Garland. He did Ex Machina. He did a few other movies like that. They paid him $1 million. He wrote a Halo script. They sold that script on, and I think they're making a movie, or I think he's written a movie for Halo.
Is there a season 2 of Halo coming out?
I don't know. It was a terrible, terrible show for me, but I haven't heard anything. They spent so much money on it. They spent so much money establishing the lore. It would almost be a shame not to see a second season, but at the same time, I'm okay with it. I just think it's just a waste of money if they don't go through with it more.
I mean, Halo, I feel like you could shelve Halo and you could launch it again in like 4 years. And just say like, you know what, like we kind of did it wrong. We learned some lessons. Let's reboot it.
Let's reboot it. Yes.
You know?
That's the beauty of Halo. Actually, that's the beauty of any kind of beloved IP is you could theoretically relaunch it after a little bit of a break and do that.
Yeah.
That's why we have so many incarnations of the X-Men on screen.
Yeah, Fantastic Four, right?
Third version of it in the next couple of years.
Do we know who's going to be in them?
Fourth. Rumored that Emily
we
Blunt's
saw like
husband,
some
John Krasinski.
Yeah, because we saw him in
Multiverse of Madness.
Yeah, the Multiverse
of Madness. But no guarantee that he's going to definitely be Mr. Fantastic.
Is he kind of old for Mr. Fantastic?
Yeah, but you want a little older guy. Mr. Fantastic's not a young guy in the comics either. Like he's very famous for having white hair on his sideburns. You want a little older guy. You don't want someone really old, but you want someone who's slightly older, like in his 40s.
So I have to take a line from Goose. We have committed to Bridgerton. The funny thing is, you and I are both like, we're not down on Bridgerton, but we both, I think, generally, our assessment of Bridgerton is like that's a female-driven, emotional period piece love story. That's beneath us, right? And it will be funny if you and I come back and we are just like a puddle of tears saying, oh, but what about this person? And what about this relationship? And what about this thing? And we may actually, or we may be very cold about it and say like, this is no value.
It was exactly what I thought it was going to be. I'm out.
Yeah.
You look at the names and you just know, like for me, I'm just like, oh my God, there's a character called Prudence Featherington.
Yeah. I mean,
Violet Bridgerton. These
Penny
are like
Bellwether. I know. They're all like made from like these name generators, right? Which is like the street that you're born on, plus your first pet, plus your favorite number, right? And that will create like your medieval character, right?
Lord Brimsley the Third.
Yeah. I mean, they're all yeah, they're all, everyone's butler is named Chevis. And I mean, it's
what it is? I think I know what it is. These are the kinds of shows. The reason I'm not drawn to them is because they seem like the cheesy romance novels of the 80s and 90s, which had like a shirtless Fabio standing on top, like standing in front of an estate with the wind blowing through his hair. That's what these shows kind of make me think of, where it's kind of like softcore adult entertainment for women who have much better imaginations than men otherwise would.
Have you ever watched Lifetime around like the holiday season?
That's exactly it. It's like a Lifetime movie. It's almost like a Hallmark movie, but slightly elevated.
Those Hallmark Christmas movies, honestly, they are something else. They are really something else. Actually, one would be Pete, the podcaster, who can't love again. Yeah. And there would be an entire episode about you and hot cocoa and ice skating and
Or, I had to go back to this town that I was originally from because best friend recently passed. My childhood best friend recently passed away. Yeah. I'm there attending his funeral. And I've just had a big breakup in the big city. And I'm learning to kind of... I've been closed off, and I'm learning to love again.
And your friend left you his dog in his will. So now you've got like this white German Shepherd or Husky or something. Yeah.
And I meet this beautiful blonde in the dog park. All of a sudden, the flames in my heart start to rekindle, and oh my God, it's so cheesy and it's so.
These Hallmark movies, they start earlier and earlier every year. And they are absolutely...
I mean, they probably cost next to nothing to make, but they must... but their returns on investment must be through the roof because of it.
I mean, they are. But if you're the Hallmark Channel, to be honest, that's kind of like your bread and butter, right? I mean, like...
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, holiday season is really like... Everything's around the Thanksgiving holiday, around the Christmas holiday, around the New Year's holiday, around the
Valentine's
holiday. And then there's a big lull in the summer. Right?
That's when they're quickly filming all these new movies.
And they are. And there's like a few, honestly, there's a few, the girl from Party of Five, what's her name? Lacey Chabert?
Sure, I don't remember. I don't know. I don't think I ever saw Party of Five. Maybe I can't remember.
So disappointing.
No, but I'm also confusing it because it could have that was the era of Dawson's Creek.
Matt Fox.
Was the era of
Matt Fox.
Yeah. No, I've probably seen it. I just don't remember.
So Lacey Chabert was like the little kid, and I think she was also in Mean Girls as well. She is like the
she was in Mean Girls. Yeah,
she is like the queen of Hallmark movies. You'll see her. Honestly, you'll see her in like probably 3 this winter. One, she'll be the lawyer. Another, she'll be the wedding planner. And a third, she'll be the real estate agent. Best friend?
Oh, okay.
Real estate agent, right?
Okay.
It's always one of those 3. And then, she's going to meet, the Mr. Right or Mr. Wrong or something like that. So I think we started talking about this. A lot of tangents today because we committed that we're gonna watch Bridgerton, or at least try Bridgerton and see where it comes out.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a centerpiece of Netflix, so we should at least see it and forever screw up our because you watched we recommend.
Oh my God,
list. That list is forever going to be like, maybe their algorithm will die. Wait a second. Pete only watched religiously sci-fi, but he also watched Bridgerton. Maybe you'll get like an email. Maybe you'll get an email like, hey, your account's been compromised.
Is this you? Yeah.
Your account's been compromised.
I think they gave up on my account
period piece romance.
because we have that platform where we've got 4 different profiles for the 4 different members of our family, but everyone ends up using my profile anyways. Oh. So I've got like foreign language movies, I've got Korean dramas, I've got sci-fi, I've got sitcoms, I've got everything under the sun being sent to me on my recommendations list. And I think it's the platform's just like, I don't know what to recommend to Pete anymore.
Pumping iron. All right, dude. Thank you for your time today. Thank you for your tangents. Listeners, thank you for indulging us. And let's just recap the most important part. There's a lot of content out there today. If you need us to help give you a recommendation on what to watch, or you want us to watch something for you, don't be shy. Message us.
Let us know. aloha@filmsandstuffpodcast.com or tweet at us at F&S Podcast. We will gladly take the bullet for you. We've got the time. We've got the willingness. And that's really, we've given you a little bit of a teaser as to what you're going to hear at the end of this year. But the purpose of this is to basically give you a little bit of an idea of what the current streaming landscape is. And we will give you our definitive answer to, I've got $15 in my pocket or $20 in my pocket, what streaming platform should I be subscribing to in 2023? We're going to let you know at the end of this year.
Thanks, everyone, for listening. Thank you, Pete.
Thank you, Ethan. Thanks, everyone.
Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Films and Stuff. If you haven't already, please subscribe and review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever podcasts are downloaded. Films and Stuff. There is no substitute.